Before the war, it was seen that the men were expected to be the provider of the family. Women were seen as housemakers, they stayed home and looked after the place where their brother, husband, and father all went out and did the work. This soon changed during the war, however. During the war, women had a large role to play in the fact that they kept Australia running whilst males were off fighting and protecting our country. Females stayed here and did all the work to keep our country running and operating. While the war was going on, the women that didn't go off to war to help as nurses if they were enlisted, however, they would complete the roles the men would do as if they were there. During World War II, women worked in factories, building ships, aeroplanes, the auxiliary service as air raid wardens, fire officers, evacuation officers, drivers of fire truck, train and tram conductors, and of course nurses. The need for people in the military became more than what the government had expected, this resulting in them enlisting women to do all the technical jobs normally done by men, helping them free the men up and leaving them open to help in combat. Compared to before the war, when it was seen as a female working, they were taking work off the men. Since the men were at war and unable to complete the work, that's where they began recruiting women to complete the physically challenging jobs, such as wielding, machine repair, operating tractors, and other large engines. They also made uniforms, weapons, and ammunition. They helped build trucks, tanks, and aeroplanes. Women were also a big support in the farming industry, keeping Australia's food supply running. They helped out around the farm, helping with ploughing, harvesting, and milking cows. Many people, however, did not agree with the women doing all the male tasks such as farming, as they felt they were incapable of doing so. Women and children of servicemen were recognised after World War I and World War II by receiving medals as a way of showing their personal connections with military efforts. After the war had finished, the women would go back to their normal lifestyles as to before the men went to war, as there was not a need anymore for women to work in male-dominated industries at the time because the men had returned home to fulfill their roles. After this, however, women began to fight for their rights to work in male-dominated work industries. After World War II had concluded, they felt that they had built so much as individuals by gaining new skills and also gaining the power to work in the workforce and not just being stay-at-home wives. You also look at it now, and Australia has come a long way from a time where women weren't allowed to participate in war aside from being nurses. They now are given the opportunity, 73 years down the track, to be treated as equal as men are.
When I actually joined up, I was surprised at how normal my lifestyle stayed, which is pretty awesome. It was very exciting to discover how many jobs were actually on offer within the army. Probably the only thing that's a bit different is really what I wear to work. And I get to work with these.
There are a variety of careers for women in the Army that are anything but ordinary. To find the one that's right for you, search Army Jobs. Army, challenge yourself.
A woman that was very influential in her task as a woman during war was Vivian Bullwinkle. Vivian was enlisted as a nurse, a part of the Australian Army Nursing Service, Australian Imperial Force. Bullwinkle worked as a nurse in Malaysia before Japan's invasion in Singapore, where she was forced to flee by boat before being shipwrecked by a Japanese aircraft. Bullwinkle, along with other women and men of war, were massacred in Banker Island 1942. Bullwinkle was the only sole survivor of the tragedy that occurred on Banker Island. After 12 days, she then surrendered herself to another Japanese group who imprisoned her for 3.5 years, where she endured a lot of hardships and torture, but not one spoke of the tragedy of Banker Island and how she was the only one to survive. Upon her release and arrival back in Australia, Bullwinkle was awarded the Royal Red Cross Award on the 6th of March 1947. Bullwinkle did more work around nursing in Australia after retiring from the Army on the 30th of September, where soon after she became the Director of Nursing at Melbourne's Fairfield Hospital. Soon after this, Bullwinkle received another 2 awards, one on the 1st of January 1973, titled the Member of the Order of the British Empire, and another on the 26th of January 1993, titled the Officer of the Order of Australia. Bullwinkle passed away on the 3rd of July 2000, living an incredible 84 years. Bullwinkle was proof of how Australia's involvement in war changed the role of women in Australian society, because despite all the trauma she faced, she never let it stop her from being the best possible nurse she could be. She also used all the experience and training she went through during the war to transfer that into a nursing career as Director of Nursing for Melbourne's Fairfield Hospital.